Today you're joining me on the floor of my studio, which unfortunately isn't particularly glamorous. It's just the room above the garage, which is mainly used for storage and Toby's drum kit, so don't have loads of space, but lucky to have any at all really. So I wanted to show some of the paintings that I have up here. None of this is anything particularly curated or thought through. It's just the random paintings that I've been doing since I've been in this space for about a year, which is not a lot of work for that amount of time compared to what I was doing while I was at uni. A lot of my university stuff is just shoved under the bed at the minute, which is quite sad, but I don't have a lot of space for it, and it can get quite cold and damp in here in the winter, so I don't really want it left up here in case it goes a bit mouldy. This is mainly just so I can see that I do create work and that I do enjoy painting, even though a lot of these aren't pieces that I'm particularly proud of in a technical sense or in any sense really. They're not by any means my best paintings or things that I really love. I think I probably preferred work I was doing before I even started university and really took any kind of art practice seriously, before I even considered myself an artist, which I still kind of don't. Sort of using this as a way to make myself remember that I enjoy painting and that it doesn't have to be anything great, and that I don't have to produce incredible bodies of work that are really coherent and heavily researched. Yeah, I'm just gonna start showing what I've done. These are two of my most recent paintings. They're a lot more abstract than I have been doing recently. Very dusty because I don't even know when I would have done these now. This one is called Butterfly Bush. I always see those things on Pinterest that look like this, and I just think they are so beautiful. I have my phone background looks like this basically, and the more I'm working on my sort of spiritual practice or yoga practice, this is the other one I don't really like so much. Colours are a bit bland. Yeah, the more I'm working on my spiritual practice and yoga practice, I'm finding myself drawn a lot more to the more abstract. All throughout university I was very heavy on realism and figurative work to represent the self, but now I find it's become quite redundant for me to just portray the self in a physical sense in my art. I feel like I've done that. I feel like I do that every day by existing in a human body. I think about my appearance far too much, and I think using my physical appearance in my art is making that worse. It's become less of self-expression and more self-criticism, whereas I feel like capturing life as something I'm experiencing as to something I physically am is giving me a lot more in terms of what I get from my art practice. Like, this references the butterfly bush, a buddleia plant, and well, it does look like that to me anyway, and that's what I was reminded of as I was painting it. When I started, it was initially some kind of self-portrait, but I guess I would also argue that any art you create is a self-portrait because it comes from you, but that's a whole other thing. This one I started to try and base it off like seashells and the iridescence you get from them, but I don't know, it just seems like it kind of has it. Maybe I need to invest in a varnish. It just kind of seems dull, and I just don't. I think something like that would maybe work better in acrylic. I just don't. I really did struggle with the blending on these. I work in oil paint only, and I just think maybe I haven't practiced it enough, but colours like this I found very difficult to not have been muddy and boring. Even with these colours I found the same problems, but this was easier to fix if I felt something was a bit dull than this one was. So next, I'm going backwards in time from most recent to least recent. This is what I painted before. This is canvas, stretched canvas, which I didn't paint on for a very, very long time. And I did quite enjoy painting on it, with like having that bounce again. I've missed quite a lot. This was a transitional piece into something that felt more like this. Obviously the ambiguity of the shapes and the setting is ambiguous. Cut that out, dear God, what am I talking about? It feels human because of the colours and the fleshiness, but the shapes don't necessarily feel human. Obviously there is a clear head and body here and down here. Maybe something here. Maybe this is more like a fetus shape than a human shape. I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to paint just another physical self-portrait, and I didn't quite know how to get into something more abstract like this. This is what I wanted out of this, and I didn't get that. I still felt, I really like this painting actually, even though it's not good. It's not a good painting. I really like it. I just, when I look at it, things like my canvas edges, I'm so bad at folding. Look at this. Awful. I need to sand when I'm painting. You can see the streaks from the gesso, which is very distracting, unless you're going for that, but I'm not. So yeah, this was a bit of a transitional piece, but I think it was beneficial. I hadn't painted in a while when I painted this, and it was good to get me back into the feeling. So this next one is just on board. This wasn't planned. I didn't know what I was doing. Again, I had that weird thing of sitting down and wanting to paint and not having a plan, but not just wanting to paint a figurative portrait again, like I have been for the last literally 3 years. But I hadn't figured out that this is what I wanted to get. This is such a small, I love these little baby paintings so much. I love the size of them, but I have some more structure bars. I'm gonna make some canvas and I'm gonna prep canvas properly. I'm gonna learn how to fold properly again because I've forgotten, and I'm gonna create something like this, and I'm gonna spend longer doing it, and I'm gonna do it properly. And this was an attempt at trying to do that before I could really articulate what I wanted to capture to myself and to other people. Having a very vague idea in your head, even as a visual artist, not an artist of words or sound, is still difficult. I think a lot of people think that when you are a visual artist and you are a painter or an illustrator or whatever you may be, that you don't need to understand what your ideas are, and you can have some strange abstract thought and it just appears in front of you as a visual image, and that really isn't the case for me. Since I've stopped reading so much in my adult life, I've really struggled to understand my own thoughts and to translate them into the physical world. I find it much harder than I used to as a child, and I do primarily think it is because of the time that I spend on my phone and on the internet, and I am trying a lot harder to do that less, but it obviously is proving very difficult, as I'm sure many people would also understand the feeling of trying to stop scrolling on their phones but just can't put your phone down. It's what it's designed for. When I'm practicing in the studio, I have that same problem. I have some idea somewhere existing in my mind that I can feel really deeply in my chest, and I can have it in my head, but I can't seem to explain even to myself what it is that I want to achieve with it, or what I want it to look like. It's like some weird memory from smelling a candle that you had at some point in your childhood, but you can't see the memory, but you can still feel the feeling of it. That's almost what it feels like. I don't know how many layers of paint are on this or how it came about, but I ended up doing a portrait. I don't know, I think it's a self-portrait. I didn't have a reference when I was doing it, so I don't think it particularly looks like me. Maybe it does, I don't know. So stuck in doing realism, and I found when I was at university and I was trying to do all these weird things and like almost like body horror, I guess, with like looking at the insides of the body and all this, that it didn't work when I did it, and I saw other people do it and it looked incredible, and it worked so well, and I was so engaged with it, and I could stare at it for hours and I thought it was brilliant. But then when I tried to do similar things in my own practice, it just didn't land, and it wouldn't matter if I changed the way I was painting, what my subject was. If I tried to do things that were like weird, it just didn't work. And that's, I think, why I stayed in such a traditional sense for so long, and that's why I didn't like my degree show work, because it wasn't particularly traditional. I wanted to create something that I was really proud of, but I was still stuck in that phase, that between phase of having this idea and feeling but not being able to translate it into the physical world and into my practice. And I think I'm still there, really, because I haven't been practicing enough. But yeah, this is a good representation of that, of no reference and not knowing what I'm doing and something strange coming out the other end. So the next one I did, this was just a little one that I actually really love. It's just sand. It's just meant to be sand on the beach, patterns from shells and the tides, and I just really love it. I think it's a really lovely painting. I don't really have much else to say because that's all it is, but I just love it. Similarly, this is one I did a long time ago, which is just a sunset, and I just think it's beautiful. Again, the technique's horrendous, the blending is terrible, and it's so dusty. But it just reminds me that I like painting, even if it's just to make something that looks nice, as well as having all these like ideas and feelings and whatever that I want to get onto a canvas or whatever. I like this side of it as well. This was one of the first ones I did after finishing university, and it is just a painting of a tomato. I think I got the reference image on Pinterest. I was never really taught how to paint technically, especially with oil paint. Any technical lessons I had were when I was doing A-level art. I didn't have any while I was at university. I only used acrylic paints at A-level. I didn't use oil paints until I was at the very end of my first year of university, and then I didn't pick them up again until I started my second year. I love the texture of the stem, and I think that the shadows on the cloth the tomato is sitting on are really nice. I like how soft and rough it is at the same time. There's something about seeing the brush strokes in the wall behind it that really scratches an itch, you know? And the softness of the cloth compared to this roughness behind, and then almost the shininess on the tomato and the orange that I've put on it. Yeah, I really like this one. This one is untitled again. Actually, I think I called it Bottles, but I don't know. It was the first painting I did in this studio. It's also on stretched canvas that is not very stretched, but the folding of this is the best folding I've ever done. But it's so much better than the other one. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yes, this is a still life I did. The bottle holder is just over there. Just found it in here when I moved into this as my studio space. I really love still life work, I really do. I don't think the table looks great. I think I was being very lazy painting the wooden table. And I think it's good to practice still life all the time, I really do. Even if I am going to start doing a lot more abstract work, I still think it's important to practice still life, because I think if you're going to be a painter or an artist that doesn't necessarily follow the rules, it's still important you know what they are. Because if you are like breaking these art rules or these painting rules or whatever before you even fully understand them, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just going to look like you don't know what you're doing. And I know obviously people can paint whatever they want. You don't have to be a really talented artist to create art and to be successful in it. Like, it doesn't matter. And I think it's good for everyone to create art, even if it isn't necessarily good. But I think if you are going to take art seriously in the way you paint, and you are going to try and make a career from it, not that I have one, I think it makes a big difference to fully understand ways of painting and how changing these is going to affect the work. Because if changing them without fully understanding them is something you do, it is just going to feel like you don't know what you're doing and you don't understand your own work, which I think... Yeah? I don't know where I got to with that. I think I showed... Yes, I did show the bottle one. Yeah, I don't know if I finished my last thought or not. I can't remember what it even was anymore. But yeah, those are some of the paintings that I have in my studio. It's not all of them. Not all of my paintings are in here, like I said at the start. Maybe in a few months I'll do another one of these as a more updated sort of portfolio, and we'll see how it goes. But I think that's all I'm going to show today.